X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam, how are you? How are you doing today?
Man, I got 2 Bowie knives, and I am ready to avenge my fallen sibling, so I am ready to go.
You're pretending that you, in fact, are Jimmy Proudstar.
Maybe I should have said that I'm both special and double-sized.
See? Now that's a good bit. This episode will be regular-sized because, listen.
It's just a regular episode.
We've only got so much time. Guys, there's a lot of X-Men comics. We can't read them all.
No. But if you can't tell, who are we talking about this week, Zach? If people haven't figured it out already.
Jimmy Proudstar. We said Jimmy.
Did we say Jimmy? Okay.
I said the Thunderbird.
Jimmy.
The Warpath?
Jimmy the Thunderbird. The Warpath. He's on a Warpath.
I think that's all of his names. James. He sometimes goes by James when he wants to be more formal.
I feel like we've talked a lot about him recently. You know, he came up on the Hellions episode. He was on our X-Force episode recently, and here
how
we
tall
have
do you think Thunderbird is officially? Do you know how tall Thunderbird is?
7 feet.
7'2".
Yeah.
7'2",
sounds right.
350 pounds.
Jesus Christmas. That's a big guy. He's a big fella.
He's an absolute unit.
Why are we talking about this unit this week? Who requested this?
Oh, because Ryan Rome, Patreon supporter, did say, folks, I would love you to talk about this one issue of X-Men. And we said, hey, that issue stars Thunderbird 2, not Thunderbird 3, who's the worst. Or Thunderbird
not
1.
Neil.
Thunderbird 1, I don't want to call the worst. I understand why he was the one that died.
Well, he's getting a second chance, you know?
I'm actually
so we'll
super excited for what Steve Orlando and Nyla Rose are going to be doing in that giant size issue, and then specifically what happens after that. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that he's got a very unique look. I'm excited to see what happens when John comes back, because he's been the one that hasn't come back. That's
right.
The thing. He's been the one, and that's the promise of Krakoa, is that everybody is back. Everybody can come back.
That's right. So we can stop mourning him after however many decades.
It was 1975, buddy. It's been nearly 50 years.
So we're going to start with the Gala 100th anniversary. Wait, that doesn't sound right. 100th anniversary. Issue of the all-new, all-different X-Men. But they do this on covers sometimes. They say that it's been 100 issues, but they say 100th anniversary.
Okay, but this is Claremont's 100th issue.
Right.
100th sequential issue of Uncanny X-Men. That's what they're
doing.
Yeah,
they just need a comma there. You know what I mean? Gala 100th comma.
They're saying, folks, since the time you started caring about X-Men,
it's been 100.
It's been 100 since then.
So this is Chris Claremont, John Romita Jr. with Dan Green, Tommy Orrs, Glynis Oliver, and this issue. It starts with Warpath kicking Banshee in the face.
Yeah, he kidnaps Banshee, and then he finds Banshee, kidnaps him, and hides him in Cheyenne Mountain. That's the location of Valhalla base.
Yes.
You remember
Nuclear
that?
Base.
You remember that NORAD base from that time that Count Nefaria and his anti-men tried to take it over?
That's right. We got to call back to the that original Uncanny story. Of course the X-Men have to go rescue him. Now, this is a weird time for the X-Men. Professor X has just almost been killed. Wakes up.
Yeah, let's talk about the start of this issue, Adam.
So after Banshee gets clocked in the face with Warpath's foot, Professor X wakes up in bondage gear after having been... Well, first he's almost beat to death, right?
In the last issue before this, he is almost beaten to death by some street youths.
Right. So the Morlocks have rescued him. The healer has used his substantial powers to bring Xavier back, but Xavier,
The healer does a heal.
it's not 100%, as we'll find out by the time we get to Uncanny 200.
He only cast Cura instead of Curaga, which is that's a rookie move, healer. I know you're getting better now that you're on Krakoa, but boy, you really should have helped out all Charlie X there.
Well, I mean, one way they helped him apparently is just by draping him in leather straps with spikes on them. I mean, he's got a headband, he's got multiple wristbands, he's got a harness, he's got earrings. Like, this is a look, man.
So I'm not a member of the BDSM community, just not my specific flavor. But my understanding is that outfit with all of the buckles and the straps would be an extensive amount of work to put on, especially onto an unconscious old man. So I don't know what Callisto's doing, except for doing a very weird bit.
I feel like she's just messing with him, because the second he
That's
realizes...
so much work to do, though!
The second he realizes what's going on, he takes it all off. I mean, it's ridiculous.
He's like, why am I in body? Great, funny joke, Christopher Claremont. Funny joke.
Now, this is the first time...
What if Ramita... I don't think that this is what happened, but what if Ramita just turned in the pages as a bit and said, hey, Chris, we all know what you're doing. Just, it's fine, but we are going to do this because I don't have time to redraw these pages.
That's really funny. I don't know.
I wish he did.
That'd be great.
You have John's email. We should ask him.
We really do need to have him on the show. So,
John, what was up with that? John, you gave me your email address 5 years ago at New York Comic Con. I'm cashing in my marker.
I mean, there's some other weird stuff happening here. Like, the train has a face on the front of it. Like, it has little cartoon eyeballs. Like, John, what are you doing?
Well, it's the Morlocks train. They just like it. It's fun. Yeah. It's a fun and funny train they own.
So Professor X gets introduced to the Morlocks. He's never been down there before. We also have...
They're like, oh no, there's so many of them. Yeah. I have done such a bad job building a community of mutants. I screwed up. They have a tunnel right into my backyard. How did I miss them?
Callisto's delightful here.
Callisto is great.
With Warpath, we also get an interesting cameo here who we talked about a couple episodes ago. We get Firestar.
This is actually Firestar's first appearance.
Right? Crazy. Kind of indicates like some of the plot points of the Firestar mini here, but she's being controlled by Empath pretty heavily here. Who else
Empath at his roulette. It's Empath, Roulette, and Firestar.
Yep.
Who Empath's like, hey, Thunderbird, heard you're going to start some crap. I'm in. I'm a bad guy.
I'll tag along.
I'm a jerk. Him, Roulette, who he's possessing to... No, he's not even possessing her, because she says, yeah, if he pulled that crap with me, I'd make him lose it. He knows better.
Yeah, Roulette's on she's free.
She's just evil. And good for her. We're supporting women's wrongs these days.
Back to Xavier's costume for a second. I forgot to mention that there's a great danger room sequence at the beginning of this, but Charles Xavier appears out of the tunnel, the Morlock tunnel with Callisto, and Sam, who had previously been chastised by Professor X in the New Mutants Annual #1 for wearing punk clothing,
this planet,
gets his revenge, and it's really funny that they all just laugh.
He gives Professor X so much crap about it, because he is... At this point, Professor X is essentially wearing the exact same thing that Sam wore in Steal This Planet, which is delightful.
It is fantastic.
What's odd about this is Nightcrawler is ostensibly the team leader right now, because Cyclops is gone.
Right.
Trying to have a kid. Mm-hmm. Storm has lost her powers, and she's like, I need to do a walkabout.
Right.
Like she's John Locke from the hit TV show Lost. So who's going to lead the team? Is it Wolverine? No, he's bad at leadership. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to do it, which is probably the bigger thing. Wolverine does not want this cup. Colossus, who's a child. Rogue in Rachel Summers, no. Or Kitty Pryde, who is, again, 14 years old. So it's Nightcrawler. He has a lot of doubt about his leadership ability, and rightly so.
Yeah, he's not great at it.
Just love you, Kurt. Not your forte.
No, and we also have Professor X backseat driving the mission from the Blackbird. when they arrive. And things just don't go well. Like, things do not go well. Rachel is having, like,
Panic attacks.
PTSD, panic attacks.
They asked her to hunt a mutant.
Yeah.
So she did it. They didn't know. It's a learning experience for everybody. Did have a bad time with that one. Rachel does not care for that.
Yeah. Kitty does manage to rescue Banshee, which is good, but Wolverine does have to, like, fight James Proudstar in a pretty good sequence. Like, you know, we get another one of these, like, really nice action sequences from JRJR where they're just kind of kneeing each other in the face. It's kind of cool.
Romita's so good in this.
Yeah.
Romita is so good. I'm currently in the middle of writing a article on a different comic that John Romita Jr. has written or drawn, and all I can think about is, man, like, this era 80s Romita, so freaking good.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him drawing the Amazing Spider-Man monthly comic in 2022. I do love 1985 John Romita Jr. though.
It's wonderful.
It's wild
stuff.
that he's drawing Spider-Man again 40 years later, right?
It is wild, especially after doing the DC run. So very interested to see what that looks like. So far, I've liked the promo art, you know, that he's been putting out lately. But you know, I think for some people he's a bridge too far at this point. Here though, we're in prime JRJR land, and we've got sec bots. The kind of, they look like, you know, your standard issue Marvel robots.
They look like mandroids.
They do. That's what I was thinking about. They look like those mandroids. And you know, like there's some stuff happening here. Wolverine threatens Empath, so he passes out. Colossus doesn't want to hurt Firestar because he realizes if he does, he could kill her.
What I love about this is what happens is essentially what you got is Jimmy Proudstar, who's an angry young man. All it is, he is a guy who is mad about his role model, his brother, dying in the service of the X-Men, who he doesn't know what that is or why that matters. He knows that his brother died, and he loves his brother. And his brother was his hero, so losing his brother was a big deal to him. So he eventually, he pins the blame on Professor X, gets him in the Blackbird, and is holding a knife above him. And there's a very legitimate heart-to-heart about the nature of revenge, and is this going to fulfill him? And, you know, did John Proudstar die for any reason, or is death just a thing that happens?
It's a fantastic scene.
Romita kills it. Claremont shows restraint. Claremont lets the art tell the story in a big way, which I think some of our favorite Claremont sequences, I'm thinking like some of the Paul Smith stuff from like that fight with Callisto and Storm, or the fight with Wolverine and Shenzhen in the Wolverine mini with Frank Miller, like where Claremont knows who he's working with and can pull back like he does here. It's stunning. It's one of my favorite sequences in all of Claremont's run. I think this issue in general is a little uneven. Like, I think most of the stuff at the Valhalla base doesn't need to be there. Like, it's
drawn out, and it's done specifically because it needs to be this double size issue. You know, the content of the story does not need to be this long. But you know, he's trying to flesh it out so that it's this extra jam-packed issue. We also even get this epilogue at the end that's leading into what happens with Nimrod, which is really funny, I think.
It's really okay. The Nimrod stuff. Hold on, the Nimrod stuff rules because you got Jamie Rodriguez, who is a construction worker that found Nimrod and is now his best friend, and Nimrod's living in his house, and there's an anti-mutant thing, and Jamie gives his like cousin or his brother some crap about it. He's like, "You're gonna be listen. What did mutants ever do to you? It's fine. Don't be racist." Anyway, I want to go check on my best friend Nimrod and see how he's doing. Nimrod's sitting there playing on his computer terminal, looking up how to murder mutants.
And Nimrod looks
incredibly
Nimrod
funny.
looks absolutely insane on this page. He just looks like
it's Nimrod, but he's He's being a dude.
Yeah.
And just knowing the post House of X Nimrod, it's these 80s stories are even sillier.
It is. It's really wild. I think altogether, though, this is a really fun, great character study with Warpath. Might be a little bloated, but at the same time, I think it does what it sets out to do. So we should probably rank this on our
I think the good
big old
outweighs
list.
the bad here.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's the thing for me. We do have a big old list. There are 609 X-Men stories on this big old list, with the best ranked from best to worst, as you rank things. The best is House of X Powers of 10. The number 100th story on our list is Everything is Sinister from Uncanny X-Men Volume 2, 1 through 3. Number 200 on our list is New X-Men 20 to 27 Childhood's End / Crusade. Number 300 on our list is X-Men 31 and 32 Soul Possessions. Number 400 on our list is A+X 13 through 18 Captain America plus Cyclops. Number 500 on our list is X-Men the Movie Special number 1 from Wizards of the Coast Trading Card Company. Number 600 on our list is New Mutants Forever, and the Draco's the worst X-Men story of all time at 609.
Always is. Yeah,
I know this is in the top 200.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see like where we're at. So at 150 we have Uncanny 143, which is Demon. Is that a stronger issue than this?
Yes, I think Demon's better.
Okay. But
I think Demon works all the way through, where this one has some ups and downs, and the highs are very high.
Yeah. But I definitely think we are above 200, which is New X-Men 20 to 27, Childhood's End, Childhood's
I think
Crusade.
we're above 155 is the Leprechauns of Cassidy Keep, and this is better than that.
I would agree. Okay, that gives us kind of a small window, and 154 is Fall of the Mutants. I would think Fall of the Mutants is better than this.
Okay, then let's put it right there.
All right, great.
I think you're spot on. We got it.
Yeah, so this is going to be
155.
our new 155. And we're going to go to a weird one next. This is an odd little thing.
Yeah, this is the first one of these we've covered, which I think is interesting, because I feel like we would have, 5 years in, ran into this before, because we like dumb stuff. This is from X-Force Volume 1. Mm-hmm. It's from 1997. It's called The Brothers Proud Star. It's X-Force -1?
Yeah, which is just an interesting concept in and of itself. And especially because this came out like, what, in the X-Force, like in the 60 issue mark? Or
Yeah, somewhere around there. Between 67 and 68.
Yeah. Also interesting, there is no X-Force Zero, which was like, obviously a big 90s thing was to do a Zero issue. But there's...
like zeros and 1/2s were mid-ish 90s, weren't they? They weren't like 92-ish.
No.
Well, I guess they would be like 93, 94, because it would have been like an Image and Valiant thing.
Sure. Yeah. Zeros were big with like the Image comics, and then Wizard Magazine really popularized the half issues.
The half.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we get these -1 issues, which are all billed as flashbacks, right? These are all things that happened before whatever the run of the book was. And this
Did
one...
these count as the annual for the year? No, because there's 97 annuals.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. It's effectively an annual.
Yeah, but this maintains the creative team of the time, correct? This is...
this is John Francis Moore and Adam Polina.
Yeah.
Who's a pretty good creative team. Wait, was this just... Hold on, I want to look at cover dates. Yeah, they just plopped this in between a couple of issues. Like, it was that issue for the month.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And this is right before we get into the Proud Star stuff with Strife, right?
This is the prelude to the road trip era, essentially.
Right.
So it's still Moore and Polina, but effectively it's during the time of Onslaught.
Yeah.
These are weird because it opens up with a bit that Chris Bachalo did in Generation X, which is in all of these flashbacks, which is Stan Lee as a chibi guy.
It's very weird.
Talking directly to the audience.
Yep. Can I just say, I hate it. I didn't like it when Chris did it. I do not like it here either.
I think it's the kind of joke that if it happens once, it's fine. When it happens as a publishing initiative, not great.
Little strange, right?
Little strange. Hey, do you know what the weird thing that you figure out in this is?
Well, there's a lot of strange things in here. So, which
There's
one?
a lot of strange things. Here's the one that I think is weird. Well,
Yeah.
you know about the first Thunderbird, John Proudstar.
Yes.
And you know about the second Thunderbird, James Proudstar.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know about the third Thunderbird, Neil Shara.
Shara. Yep.
Did you know there's also a Neil Proudstar? And that's their dad?
Yeah. Yeah. Not.
What a weird choice. Just a weird thing. I don't have it. There's nothing to it. It obviously was just a coincidence, but if I had a nickel, every time there was a Thunderbird related person named Neil, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
You've got to wonder if Chris Claremont ever read this issue. Doubting he did.
I would put several $100s on the fact that he absolutely did not.
So,
Well, 97 was Claremont like editorial.
he
No,
might
he
have been
didn't
in.
become like the editorial guy until 98.
Yeah. I think we're before that here.
Yeah, he comes back in 98. That's right.
Yeah. So Jimmy's a kid.
Jimmy's a kid.
John is coming back as a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, John Proudstar was in the Marines based on this. So I guess timeline wise, well, let's see. If this is 97, Jimmy's probably, let's call it 20 years before. I mean, roughly. No, it's only like 15. So they're saying 1980. Okay, they're just assuming, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Even by this time, John Proudstar being a Vietnam vet doesn't really work, but it's fine. Let's just go with it.
It's just where it's at. I mean, it
is important to his character that he wanted to be, he had these ideas of, I'm going to be an Apache warrior. And that was important to him. And it's important to him in his death in those issues. But also he comes back from war, and a war that I think for a lot of people in America highlighted the uselessness and the worthlessness of war.
Yeah,
and
it's interesting because also
he doesn't feel like a hero.
No, and it's unclear though. We also get an indication that Neil worked for Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, he was also in the army.
Yeah,
Neil was, but their grandfather. He's like, why in the world would an Apache want to be a soldier for the U.S. government?
it's a great question.
Look at what they did to us.
Yeah,
Which is not something I honestly expected in a 1997 comic. John Francis Moore's X-Force is actually underrated, folks.
yeah, it's got some good stuff in it.
It's got some good stuff in it.
So
Like, I think it's uneven, but like, they should collect this. It's
got some interesting
People should
stuff.
buy it. It's got a lot of good stuff.
So John has discovered that his mother has been diagnosed with some kind of cancer. The result of that is that apparently she doesn't. There's just been medical research done on this tribe as part of werewolf research. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, okay. Edwin Martinek is doing werewolf research, which is apparently a thriving field.
Yeah.
It's goofy. It's not like, that's the thing though, like doing medical research on marginalized communities that is unethical is not actually a far out thing. That's a real thing that happened. It's in the very X-Men way where they talked about AIDS with the legacy virus.
Right.
This is them trying to do that. It's just goofy because it's werewolves. But like if you dig a little bit, like you can see exactly what Moore is trying to highlight and do, which is not something I would expect in a comic of this time.
Yeah. Well, especially with
wasn't-
a gimmicky book like this.
Right, and the whole book is about undercovering, because what's happening is they're diagnosing these people with cancer so that they get chemotherapy, and then the radiation kills them because they don't have cancer.
Yep.
They're just getting radiated to death,
Yeah.
which is horrific. Mm-hmm. That's not one bit removed from horrific. That's just like, oh my gosh, you guys are monsters.
Yeah. I mean, in
Then
this
also the
case, they
werewolf
literalize the monster.
Yeah.
Speaking of monsters, we also get to see Boom Boom's dad, his wife, I guess, before they split up, and a very young.
Yeah, it's her mom as well.
Yep, and a very young Boom Boom. It's a quick cameo.
Circus. there's a circus in town. She goes to visit, and it's the same circus that Thunderbird and, well, really just Jimmy and John are at. John understands that he's been gone for a little bit and wants to help out with their mom's cancer and make sure that Jimmy has a decent life. Mm-hmm. He feels a lot of responsibility to his brother.
Absolutely. This also leads to the most bizarre thing that happens in this book, which is a cameo of Destiny and Mystique, who apparently work for the circus. What did you think of that one?
Well, okay, so I'm going to throw a flashback to a previous episode. You know that the circus is run by Maynard Tybalt, the ringmaster of the Circus of Crime.
Oh, I missed that detail. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a crime circus. Great. So it makes sense that, like, you can see maybe Destiny and Mystique decided to be like, let's be petty thieves in a circus for a little bit. You're a fortune teller. I don't know why they thought that they needed Destiny to actually, like, do fortune telling, because she can see the future anyway. Like, if they wanted money, they could have figured something out. Regardless,
it seems very strange. It's a very odd cameo.
She sees John Proudstar's future exploding on an airplane, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell this 7-year-old boy that his brother's going to die very violently." Not going to do it.
The art is very Polina-y. It's kind of a cartoony look.
Do you like Adam Polina? I'm very curious.
Hot and cold. Hot and cold. Depends on the issue. Depends on the illustration. I obviously, guy's got talent, and
I like Polina a lot.
I think for this particular story, the art works really well, especially because he's drawing, Jimmy as a kid, and it's this family story. I think it works really well.
I do too. This is not perfect.
No.
It's kind of like, if you haven't read this is probably the most John Proudstar gets in, I'm about to say, ever.
It's possible. I mean, it really does develop.
He doesn't get that much in Chaos War, so.
No, it develops his character and the family of the Proudstars in ways that you really didn't get at any point during the rest of the X-Force run. So, and clearly New Mutants. So, up until this point, I think this is the most you get, and it's not bad. I think it's still goofy enough with the werewolf thing that it's just, I don't know. That part
it's reaching.
Yeah.
It's reaching for something that it can't quite grasp. Mm-hmm. But I will always like a comic that tries more than a comic that just gives me what I already know I like.
Yeah. We should probably try and rank this thing. I think, let's see. Down is this a 200s book? At 300 we have Necrosha, which is
the New Mutants part of Necrosha.
Yeah.
I like this better than the New Mutants part of Necrosha, personally.
Okay. All right.
I like this better than 296's X-Men Black Mojo, number 1.
I don't think I like this more than Wolverine Noir at 290.
Well, I like this better than the Quentin Quire arc of the Percy X-Force. So let's put it between those.
All right, it's a great spot for it. So that's going to be our new 291.
It is. Hey, speaking of Percy X-Force, this is related to the interview we did with him a while back. Mm-hmm. You remember how he was releasing some books? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I read them. Pretty good.
I bet.
I've become a book guy in this year. I've read 6 books this year, Adam.
Wow.
You know how insane that is for me? I've read 6 novels this year.
That's fantastic. It's only February, so congratulations.
Only 2 of them were by Benjamin Percy.
I do have to say, I am every time a new issue comes out, I just continue to love X Lives and Deaths even more. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Here's the thing. I don't think 10 Lives and X Deaths, excuse me. I don't think 10 Lives and X Deaths are the best thing to come out. But, like, if this is just, like, the baseline, okay, X-Men comic these days, folks.
It's pretty great.
Folks. If this is our baseline.
We're doing pretty good, right?
I think this show, and what I love about this show, is that it allows you and me to remember the bad times so that we can savor the good even more. And,
yeah.
Brother, we've got one of the bad times coming up.
Oh, we sure do. We got some Sal LaRocca coming up. This is Uncanny X-Men 487 to 491, Extremists.
Yeah, this is Salvador LaRocca and Ed Brubaker. Mm-hmm. And we were talking off air. Ed Brubaker is arguably the best author in general to do the worst work on X-Men.
Yeah, this ain't good. It is bad.
It's like Brubaker, Brian K. Vaughan. It's not a great. Just something about X-Men doesn't work with him, and that actually makes sense if you read anything that Ed Brubaker does. I just remembered that I have a Humble Bundle with all of the Ed Brubaker crime stuff, and I'm sitting here like, I got a vacation coming up. Maybe
You're set.
Maybe I get some dad comics, some real dad comics, and be like, this is what I'm reading. It's sad dads all the time doing crime. No one does. There's no sad dads in this one.
No, we do have Warpath slowly developing a relationship with Hepzibah, which is an interesting development. This happens...
Goes nowhere. It's such a weird... I don't get it. You read recently. You read Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire.
I did.
You know Hepzibah's longtime boy toy just got murdered in front of her.
Sure do. And one of the subplots is that she has yet to even talk to Cyclops about it. And yet she's already jumping on Jimmy.
What a wild choice.
Very strange.
Doesn't make sense. Ed Brubaker is 0 for 2 on romantic relationships in his run on X-Men.
But the overarching plot here is absolutely bizarre and equally terrible. Involves Mask of the Morlocks leading a small group who includes some fun characters like Litterbug. I can't believe
Litterbox is a different Morlock that did die in the Mutant Massacre. It has yet to be resurrected on Krakoa for everyone's benefit.
Litterbug, Leech, and who else is there? Skids and Urg. Oh, and what's the one who like has the thing that comes out of her mouth?
Bliss.
Thank you. Yeah, Bliss.
Bliss, who is still wearing Jean Grey's training costume
Very
from
strange.
the one time. It's beautiful because what happened is at some point somebody asked for reference of Bliss. Mm-hmm. And that was the only reference they had. So they just drew her in Jean Grey's costume without any context for the story. So the next person who got reference got that like newer reference, and it just cycled on and on and on.
There it is. So they are following some sort of Morlock prophecy. There was a Morlock named Qwerty, Qwerty, and I guess that...
Why would Morlocks know computers?
No idea. It doesn't make a dang bit of sense. It also doesn't really make sense what the prophecy is foretelling. Something to do with Magneto's return.
Hey, why didn't... If they were doing prophecies about things, why not use the Destiny Diaries that are a big plot point in the other ongoing X-Men story coming out at this exact same time, tying into Endangered Species? Ed, were you even talking to Mike Carey?
It's a great question. It's very stupid as a motivator for our characters. Mask is...
Why are the Morlocks like super religious? This doesn't even fall in with previous Morlock religions retcons.
No.
There's nothing about the Ceremony of Light in here. Do you think Ed Brubaker knows about the Ceremony of Light?
Doubtful.
Do you think he knows about the Hill?
I'm not really clear on what he gets because the voices are all weird. Skids turns out to be working for S.H.I.E.L.D. for some reason.
What a weird choice for Skids to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Very odd, right? Salvador LaRocca is tracing
But she's not even just a regular S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She's a double agent also working for Magneto in a plot point that is never brought up again.
No. Magneto is sneaking around town in a purple fedora and purple overcoat, which is not the best disguise, buddy, when your name is Magneto.
And doing nothing. Again, I know Ed Brubaker is a credited writer on the follow-up story to this Messiah complex. Doesn't get touched. Doesn't come up.
Very strange, right? Salvador LaRocca doing some very strange things here. Tracing Evangelion, it looks like, to represent the ONE Sentinels, which is just...
Yeah.
What are you doing, buddy?
No, here's the thing. I can understand the appeal of being like, oh, let's use Eva Unit 1 as our big robot. I also don't think you should use one of the most well-known designs for big robot to be your big robot.
No.
Especially when Sentinels pretty Pretty iconic design for Big Robot, also.
Exactly. And will appear in just about every other book that involves the mansion because the ONE Sentinels are standing around there constantly. So it makes no sense. One thing I'll give it credit. I did get a big emotional pull with what happens to Caliban, who is reduced back to his sort of like scrawny original status.
Just in time for him to be murdered very soon after.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But, you gotta, I do feel for the guy. And
I like that Caliban and Jimmy have a moment to reaffirm that they're bros.
that too, right?
That's what I like about this, is they're like, Caliban, my dude, what's up? We were on the Purple Era together.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a nice moment. We get some Fantastic Four cameos here, which don't really add up to much, I guess.
Oh, because Storm is now on this team because Ed Brubaker left half of his team in space, and Storm was, I want to say not doing anything, but in a very literal sense, was also headlining 2 other books at the time with Black Panther and Fantastic Four. This is the time when Storm and Black Panther were on the Fantastic Four. I believe Dwayne McDuffie wrote that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Storm's back.
Ed Brubaker doesn't write a very good Storm.
No, it seems tonally off. And really all this just gets, wrapped up when they punch the Morlocks in the face, and we all move on to Messiah Complex. So none of this stuff really gets followed up again.
It's such a weird... I don't understand what Ed Brubaker was doing on his time on the X-Men. And he's admitted that didn't know what he was doing either. They were like, Ed, can you pitch us this big X-Men thing to celebrate, was it 30 years from Giant Size? And he was like, okay. And they're like, do you want to do a follow-up to this in Uncanny X-Men? And he said, okay.
Doesn't seem thrilled.
Nothing about it screams Ed Brubaker. And I'm not even a big Ed Brubaker superhero comics fan. I've not read some of his DC stuff. I know the Batman stuff's supposed to be really good. I've not read it. Maybe that's what I should read next. No, I don't need to read stuff next. I was going to read the Batman Cop comic where it's Gotham Central.
Oh, do you really want to read that?
I've heard it's very good. And here's the thing.
Okay.
ACAB, but police procedurals are great in terms of fictional stories.
Absolutely.
When we want to believe things.
Yeah, for sure.
Propaganda, I get it. I understand the appeal of propaganda.
But, I mean, where this is concerned, this ain't great. I think we may be down in the 500s here. What do you think?
This one's bad, buddy.
Yeah.
It makes me be like, there were some fun moments in Rise and Fall. Why isn't Darwin in this?
That's a great question. Great question.
Darwin was just on the team. He didn't get left in space.
All right. Is this better or worse than New Mutants Fall of the Mutants at 484 with Bird Brain and the death of Doug?
Jeez, man. Probably worse, but not a lot worse.
Worse than Wildcats X-Men?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
The art's worse than Age of Dreamed Of. An Age Undreamed Of.
Absolutely. Worse than Days of Future Present? Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
We're working our way down here, folks.
We are working our way. Here's the thing. At 502 is X-Men the Movie Special #1 by Wizards of the Coast Trading Card Company.
Yeah.
I believe also drawn by Salvador Larroca.
That one's pretty bad.
This is probably better than that.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably worse than X-Men 1/2.
Oh yeah, we were just saying that we hadn't talked about any halves, but we have talked about a half.
No, we've talked about halves. We hadn't talked about -1s.
Yeah, and that's the Ringo one, the Michael Ringo one, right?
Yeah, that one has good art.
All right. So Extremist is going to be our new 502.
Yeah, definitely the worst comic called Extremists in X-Men history.
Yeah, I would agree. Not great.
That's it. We're done with this episode, folks. I want to thank Ryan Rome for supporting us on Patreon. That was a fun episode, though. I always forget how much I love Jimmy. I know Vita is doing some great work. There was a great Jimmy and John scene in their latest New Mutants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want more. I want more.
I think we're gonna
for
get
Jimmy. Well, especially because Vita's writing Jimmy very good in the limited screen time that he is getting. And I feel like he is an underserved character, but I also know that they're working with a large ensemble cast and there's a lot to get covered. So I'm not being greedy. I am enjoying the good food I get and being left wanting more.
If anybody can handle it, it's Vita.
No one can see. I just thumped my chest and be like, yeah, much love to Vita Ayala. We gotta get Vita back on the show. We gotta figure that out soon.
We will.
That's a future us problem.
Yeah.
But for current us, what problems are we facing, Adam? Or where can people see you complain about those problems online? Is it Twitter?
Folks, you can always find me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. And what do we got going on next week, Zach?
Next week we're just I don't know if you've heard about this Substack thing.
Yeah, I have.
Well, what Grant Morrison has decided to do is use Substack to be a tell-all gossip post,
nuggets.
and it's the best thing, actually. So in honor of that, and in honor of the fact that it was already scheduled months in advance, we're talking about a bunch of Grant Morrison new X-Men stories that we haven't talked about yet.
Very cool. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited. Here's the thing. I'm going to read good comics. I've read those. They're good ones. Folks, we're going to talk about some good comics next time. But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom, and we hope you survived the experience.
Get it!